Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars.
Well, a successful landing on Mars, NASA's rover Perseverance making it safely onto the ancient lake bed on the red planet on Thursday. And although there was a lot to cheer about this feat, there's still also a lot of work to do. The rover will now help scientists determine whether life ever existed on Mars. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Bob McDonald, who is, of course, host of CBC's Quirks and Quarks. He joins us in Victoria. Bob, good to see you.
Good to see you, Michael. Isn't it nice to have a good news story for a change this week?
After the year that it has been, absolutely, Bob. Okay, but let's pick up on this good news story, because I do want to talk about the significance of this moment. This is really not the first time that NASA has landed on the red planet. So why is Perseverance so important?
Well, it's the latest, it's the highest technology, and it's the most detailed rover we've ever had on Mars. So it's going to add to the body of knowledge that we've been gathering since the 60s when we first started going there with rovers. And it's just beginning. I mean, these pictures that we're seeing now are the worst we're going to see over the whole mission. These are just engineering shots to show that it's on the ground and it's safe. But what it's going to do next is it has a mast that's going to stand up on the front of the rover, and that mast has a really high resolution telephoto stereo camera on it that is about the height of your eyes if you were to stand beside it. So we're going to start to see pictures as though you were standing on Mars. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to do a complete panorama, 360-degree panorama, just like a tourist visiting a new spot. You know, you walk out on the balcony in, I don't know, Peru, and you go, boy, this isn't Canada. It looks really different. And they're going to get a lay of the land to just see what it looks like and do a survey. So we're going to see that very soon, actually, once it does that. Then it's going to stretch its arm. It has an arm with all kinds of dual tools and drills on it. It's going to stretch that just to make sure that it's operating properly. And then it's going to roll. It's going to pick a spot, a flat spot, go over to that spot and drop a helicopter that's hanging on its belly right now. And it'll drop the helicopter, then it'll just back off, and that helicopter, probably in another matter of weeks or maybe a month, is going to fly. So we're going to have our first aerial pictures on Mars. And then it's going to start its work to look for rocks that might harbor or have harbored life in the past, and it's going to take some samples of those rocks, put them in hermetically sealed little containers, and leave them there for later missions to pick up and bring back to Earth. So it still has a lot of work to do.
Okay, a lot of work, but let's pick up on a couple of threads there, because as we said, the Perseverance has landed onto an ancient lake bed in Mars. How does this lake bed, how does this factor into trying to prove whether or not life ever existed on the red planet?
Well, we know that at least here on Earth, life needs water. And Mars used to have water all over its surface about 3 billion years ago. It was a blue planet like the Earth. It had lakes, it had rivers, maybe even an ocean in the northern hemisphere. But then it went into an ice age. It got really cold and dry. A lot of the water froze underground, or it froze at the North and South Pole. It has ice caps just like we do, and some of it burned off into space. So Mars just turned into a cold, dry desert. So that's why they want to land in what used to be a lake to see if there was life there. Maybe it was preserved in the rocks. Maybe there are chemical traces of that life in these rocks, and that's what they're doing on this mission. They're not looking for life today unless something, a little green man walks in front of the camera and takes a selfie. We're looking for signs of life that Mars might have been habitable in the past. So that's the idea. So that's why they landed not only in a lake bed, but at the mouth of what used to be a river. And there's a whole delta there of deposits that have come down that river, and that's very often where it's very rich for life. So that's why they've landed there.
Why is it so important, though, Bob, to prove whether or not life ever existed on Mars?
Well, there's two reasons for that, Michael. One of them is a fundamental question: are we alone in the universe? Are we it? Is this all the life there is in the universe? Is us? I don't think so. But we have yet to find a single microbe, a single piece of DNA from another planet. So if we found something like that on Mars, that will prove that life can exist on other worlds. And that's great. That means the universe is probably teeming with life. The second reason is if we find that there's still life there today, we have to make a serious decision about whether or not we should go there. Because if humans go to Mars, could we be contaminated? Could that life that we're not used to infect us? Look what we're dealing with coronavirus here on Earth. Would we be susceptible to disease from Mars? Or the other way around, could we contaminate the Martians? And we got to think very, very carefully about that. So it's important to answer the question of whether, especially if there is life there now, or if there was life in the past. So it's really one of these fundamental questions about our place in the whole universe.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned the pandemic and COVID-19, and it's really also interesting. While it's huge to land on the red planet in order to get these amazing pictures and images, but this was all done during a pandemic. You know, the Atlas rocket that carried the rover to Mars, it launched off of the Florida coast, back in July. Talk to us about the determination that was required to make this even happen in the midst of a pandemic.
Well, it was a huge effort. I mean, just getting to Mars is enormous. You know, they have to travel for 7 months to get there. It's a small target. You could miss about half of the robots that have gone to Mars have missed the planet or crashed or something gone wrong along the way. So just getting there is one thing, landing, going through that whole sequence. But one of the things that they do to make sure that Mars is not contaminated is that anything that lands on Mars is baked before it leaves the Earth. They heat it up to very high temperature to get rid of any earthly microbes, and then they hermetically seal it inside a capsule. Some of the animation that they were showing as it entered the atmosphere, that capsule is sealed up so that we don't contaminate Mars. And there's a whole standard that NASA carries for that so that we don't bring any microbes from Earth to Mars and contaminate it. So that's why it's okay to visit by robots. But people, we're different, you know. We shed microbes all the time, and you know that's another issue altogether. So we're going to have to debate that very carefully if we do find microbes on Mars.
Okay, quickly running out of time, but I do want to ask you, as you said, there's still a lot of work to be done. So what type of time frame are we looking at with this mission?
Well, it's planned to run for 640 days, but these rovers are nuclear powered and they can run for decades. Its predecessor, Curiosity, landed in 2012. It's still running. And the rovers before that, they were designed to run for 90 days. They went for 15 years. So this thing is going to go for a long, long time, and we're going to see a lot. But start watching for the good pictures probably over this weekend. On Monday, the pictures are going to get better. Michael, you haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, which of course means that we're going to book you again, Bob McDonald. But for now, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right, Michael. Always a pleasure.
Yes, and to you. Take care. And that's Bob McDonald, host of CBC's Quirks and Quarks. He is in Victoria.